America, a basketball game leads to 6 people arrested and 25 injured. The NAACP says it'll be part of a second wave of protests and mass civil disobedience. And Donald Trump reveals exactly how he'll force Mexico to pay for the wall. My name is Howard Riell, and this is Real Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com and on Facebook and YouTube and Tumblr and in the book Real Truth, Stay Angry. And of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM The Line. Our call-in number, you should be able to recite it back to me by now. 877-254-7524. Welcome back, my friends. Item from Freep, that's FREEP.com. Ford is among at least a half dozen automakers that have either expanded production or built new plants in Mexico in recent years. Ford said today it will invest $1.6 billion to build a new plant in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, that will be manufacturing small cars by 2018, making it the latest automaker to expand its presence there. Ford said construction of the new plant will begin this summer. It expects to begin producing cars there in 2018. Ford's investment in Mexico will create more than 2,800 jobs by 2020, delivering a blow to the UAW, which pushed for higher wages in its contract talks with the automaker last year and prompted a swift reaction from the union. Unquote. My friends, we've had 7 years of Democratic presidency, and this is the result. Businesses fleeing the United States. Related item from the Washington Post. Donald Trump says he will force Mexico to pay for a border wall as president by threatening to cut off the flow of billions of dollars in payments that immigrants send home to the country. Stop! My friends, this is brilliant. Do you not understand how genius this is? I'll tell you how genius it is here. You may have seen this book before. I've certainly held it up in front of this camera before, and I've talked about it many times. Ann Coulter, Adios America, the left's plan to turn our country into a third world hellhole. In this book, Ann Coulter lays out precisely why Mexico keeps sending people here to the United States, not only to clean out their sanitariums and their prisons, but also because Mexicans come here and they send money back to Mexico. And every time they do, there are people in Mexico, specifically the richest man in the world, something Slim, Mexico Slim, who makes billions of dollars every year on the money going back to Mexico, on the money that's transferred from America to Mexico. None of our politicians have a clue. They are all brainless, they're talkers, they're do-nothing fakes. Only Donald Trump comes along and says, here you go, here's how we do it, and he grabs Mexico, you'll forgive my phraseology, grabs them by the short hairs and says, listen, schmucks, you're going to pay for the wall or we're going to take away billions and billions of dollars from you every year. So what will Mexico's reaction be? Well, it will huff and it will puff and it will say bad things about Donald Trump, and as soon as he becomes president, Mexico will pay for our wall. This is why Donald Trump has been able to build an empire, because he doesn't jabber, he doesn't yak. He does. He takes action, and decisive action, and intelligent action, like this. The idea could decimate the Mexican economy and set up an unprecedented showdown between the United States and a key diplomatic ally. Stop. What showdown? Mexico is an economic basket case. Its people, by and large, have no education. They rely on handouts and other perks from being right next to the United States of America. Mexico is nothing. Mexico is a piñata. And Donald Trump just picked up a baseball bat. Mexico can do nothing but huff and puff. If Mexico wants to do something constructive, let them crack down on the drug cartels, which, by the way, are slopping over into America now. Mexico is a toilet. Know that. Mexico can do nothing unless the United States lets them. So when Donald Trump comes along and says he's going to cut off the flow of billions of dollars in payments that immigrants send home to the country, Mexico, he is precisely right. He is exactly right. That's precisely the step that needs to be taken, and you will see how fast Mexico crumbles and gets down on its knees and apologizes to the United States for not having checked this illegal immigration for decades. Only Trump will do this. Only Trump could think of doing this. Only Trump has got the moxie to actually do it. So while people in Wisconsin today are deciding whether or not Donald Trump is presidential enough, let the people listening to me in Wisconsin get a clue. You hire a president like you hire anybody to get a job done and to get it done well. Cruz won't do it. He's a globalist. He's in with all the powers that be that want Mexicans coming here, and South Americans and Central Americans. He's not going to change anything. Kasich certainly won't change anything. Hillary will bring them here faster, so will Bernie. Only Trump can solve this problem, and that goes for a long laundry list of problems that America has. The wall is just one of them. He'll take decisive action, he'll take fast action, and he will solve, not mitigate, not lessen, but he will solve the problem, which means we'll also have fewer people being shot, raped, getting drugs. By the way, if you have any children, there's a good chance they may start taking drugs. And if they do, those drugs will have come over the border from Mexico. So if you're not for Trump, slap yourself in the head and go look in the mirror and say, tell me, I want to vote for Cruz or Kasich. And in order to do that, I'm willing to take the chance that my kid will be sticking a needle in his or her arm, courtesy of the Mexican drug lords. Because I had a chance to stop the flow of drugs, which, by the way, is destroying our youth. And I didn't do it because I didn't think Donald Trump was quite presidential enough. My friends, I went on a long tear yesterday about this. As Americans, we need to grow up. We need to be smarter. Don't vote for idiotic reasons. Vote for one reason only, because the person you're voting for can solve our problems and, yes, make America great again. This is Real Truth. We'll be right back.
We all know that our government is out of control. What are the points of people in it? How can we, the people, bring it back to the people's servants, not the people's masters? Liberty Forum and the Freedom Rider says officials in government must be made accountable for their actions. AccountabilityRevolution.com is the place to go to learn how you can actually make that happen. Become their judges, not their slaves. AccountabilityRevolution.com. Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies reminds everyone the chance of involvement in an auto accident.
Fox News Alert, it is decision day today for Wisconsin. Folks in the Badger State, head to the polls, and you can see them doing
those around you. This message from Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies. For information on their services, call 970-484-7981.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
All right, guys, welcome back to Real Truth. The punk ass I referred to is named Carlos Slim, reportedly the richest guy in the world. He makes money every time an illegal Mexican or legal Mexican for that matter, sends money from the United States back to Mexico. He contributed a lot of money. I think he even bought a controlling share of the New York Times, which is when the New York Times stopped being against illegal immigration. If you haven't read this book by now, I want to hit you over the head with it. Get a copy and read it. Do so before the presidential election, preferably before the RNC steals the nomination, if they can, from Donald Trump. Now, Trump just made news today. The Wisconsin primary is happening as we speak. And today he announced exactly how he's going to get Mexico to pay for the border wall. It's important that you hear this. So here we go from Fox News.
Fox News Alert, it is decision day today for Wisconsin. Folks in the Badger State head to the polls, and you can see them doing just that this morning as they start their day. We're now learning more about exactly how a President Trump, if that were to become reality, would actually try to force Mexico to pay for a border wall. Many have said that's just impossible. It would never work. He laid out his plan in a 2-page memo that he sent to the Washington Post. He says that he would threaten to cut off the flow of billions of dollars in payments sent home by Mexican immigrants.
With Mexico, we will build a wall. And people, the politicians are saying, how can you possibly get them to pay? Let me tell you something, folks. When you, and we have some good business people in this audience, when you have a $58 billion deficit and you have a $10 billion wall, it's real easy. And that's on a yearly basis, the 58. It's really easy. And they don't understand it. They said, but how do you get them to pay? I said, it's so easy. And you understand. Just rely on me. Okay, rely. It's so easy.
Joining us now, Jeff DeWitt, Arizona State Treasurer and Trump Campaign Chairman in the Grand Canyon State. Jeff, welcome back to the program. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Martha. Thank you.
So he started to lay out, I think one of the interesting shifts that we've seen in the Trump campaign over the last week to 10 days is that he's trying to sort of disclose some of his actual policy ideas in a way that he's been pressed to do for some time. So how exactly would this plan to get Mexico to pay for the wall work?
Well, as you heard in the previous clip, $24 billion a year is sent to Mexico from the United States. It's either people, a lot of it is people here sending money back home to their families. It actually last year in 2015 overtook oil as a revenue source for Mexico for the first time in history. So in terms of telling Mexico that they would now enforce the provisions of the Patriot Act, which gives power to the executive branch to enforce that banks need to know their customer. And right now that's not being enforced to Mexico. The banks are not having to know their customer in order to send these wire transfers. But giving the executive branch the authority to do that, which already is there, and enforcing that, if Mexico does not pay the money, it obviously shows that it can be done. And I think that's what people have been saying for a long time. Oh, this won't happen. It can't happen. And what you've seen is a policy now that's outlined that says, yeah, this can happen. And so the argument's going to shift very quickly to should this happen, because now it's proven that it can happen. And I think we'll see polling firms now go out and find out if the American public wants this to happen. And if it comes back that the American public agrees that this should happen, then I give it 2 weeks tops before Ted Cruz is running commercials pretending that he thought of it.
Well, we'll see about that part. Let's put up on the screen some of the ideas of how he would get Mexico to pay for the wall, and we've heard the former president, Vicente Fox's reaction to that. He says there's no way, and he used some creative terminology to say that that will never happen. But the Trump proposal includes increased trade tariffs, cancellation of visas, higher fees for border crossing cards to come back and forth. Now, you've laid out an interesting principle as part of what he talked about in terms of how you could make that happen under the Patriot Act, that in order to transfer funds, the banks need to know who they're dealing with, and if those people are illegals, you believe that through his executive privilege or through what measure, what mechanism could he make that happen?
Yeah, in the Patriot Act, it already spells out, it gives the power to the executive branch to define the enforcement of that. So it's already there. And keep in mind that proposal you saw, it isn't saying that they would do all 4 of those things. It's just saying here are actually 4 ways it can be done. Some are better than others. And so it wouldn't be all of those things
And it also
But when you
says,
go,
All right, my friends, listen to me for a second, please. We've been listening to Donald Trump for months and months say America's going to start winning again. America hasn't been respected, but America under a President Trump will be strong, decisive, and use its weight, use its muscle, its leverage to make things better again. And here it is. This is part of it. This is the opening salvo. He has got Mexico's, I won't use that word, but he's got a part of Mexico's body in his hand, and he's already beginning to squeeze. And if you listen closely from the southern border, you can hear squealing beginning with a decidedly Mexican accent. Because America is America, and we've got the power and the leverage. We've had mealy-mouthed politicians. We've had simpleton politicians. We've had all-talk politicians. We even have a president right now who hates America, hates the American people, and is doing everything he can think of to cripple America. Well, along comes Donald Trump and says, what, are you crazy? We're the big guy on the block. We've got all the muscle. We've got all the might. Let's use it. My friends, to me, that makes all the sense in the world. John Kasich hasn't got enough testosterone to do anything like this. Ted Cruz won't do anything like this because he's a globalist. He came up through the globalist Bush family organization. His wife is on the Council on Foreign Relations and a managing director of Goldman Sachs, and so you know where he stands on it. He'll do nothing to stop Mexicans flooding in here. And whoever else is coming over the border. Only Donald Trump will do it. He's already beginning to do it. Do you understand that there are bigger fish to fry here, bigger issues than simply Donald Trump isn't presidential enough? Or Donald Trump's campaign manager touched a journalist? Or what did Donald Trump say about abortion? Those are small potatoes. The big thing is the sovereignty of this nation. The big thing is the leadership of this nation, which knows that America can act with strength. This is an example of that. Why the hell would anybody vote for anybody else? Has Ted Cruz ever recommended this? No. Kasich, Hillary, Bernie, have they said anything? No. They don't think. They just play out their roles as political candidates. And if they ever attain political office, they rely on the big shots and the party elites to tell them what to do. Do you not get that? And to the special interests that have funneled them millions and millions of dollars. No one's funneling Donald Trump any money. So he's his own man. He's free to do what's good for America, not what's good for the huge corporations. It's important that listeners in Wisconsin hear this. Before you go to the polls, wake up, grow up. Let's listen to some more.
Sorry, but it also says, Jeff, that once the wall was paid for, that the program would go back to the way it was?
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, the point of this memo is to say this is how you pay for the wall. And when you go to a place like Wisconsin, especially, where so many of their manufacturing jobs have been sent to Mexico and sent overseas for cheaper foreign labor, and you look at Mexico pre-NAFTA, in Mexico, manufacturing was less than 20%. It is now 80% of their revenue. I'm sorry, I'm saying the numbers wrong, but manufacturing has grown in Mexico quite a bit since NAFTA to levels that are unheard of before, and a lot of that's come at the expense of places like Wisconsin. And so we go there, and you show this proposal, and I think it resonates well with the workers that have been displaced there.
What about the trade implications? Mexico's obviously a huge trade partner, and they've said that they would never accede to this plan.
Let me tell you something, my friends. Mexico will kiss our ass if we force them to. Mexico without America is nothing. It's a glorified outhouse. Mexico will do anything we tell them to do. But you got to show strength, and you got to exert a little leverage and a little force. No one's going to do that except Donald Trump. Let's finish up this video.
Well, I don't know if they've responded to this exact memo yet. I'd be curious to see what they say to it. You know, nobody wants to start a trade war with Mexico, and this wouldn't. That's the nice thing, is people have come out and said, if he were to do a tariff, there could be a trade war, and that could hurt the economy here and there. And this shows there are ways to do it without doing any tariffs, actually. There are ways to do it without doing anything like that. And, if you go back many years, you go back many decades, there was a time back in 1938 that Mexico nationalized all the American oil interests down in Mexico. And so, things like this are not unheard of between the two countries. And basically, American workers are looking for a president that's going to put America first. And Donald Trump is the only presidential candidate that's saying he's going to do that.
So you go down to the border and you slap the piss out of Mexico. You make them get down on their knees and apologize for letting their drug cartels come into America, for stealing companies, industries, money in the tens, hundreds of billions of dollars from America, from flooding America with drugs. You make Mexico collectively get on its knees and apologize. That's how you run a foreign policy. Not with diplomacy, but with strength, mixed with diplomacy. That's how you do it if you're serious about winning on the global stage. Item from Breitbart. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, says it is part of a coalition of left-wing groups planning a second wave of protests and mass civil disobedience scheduled to disrupt Washington, D.C. later this month. Many of the participating groups are backed by billionaire George Soros. Unquote. So the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People says it's going to try and shut down free speech. Well, that's interesting. Because the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was created and built up largely on the power of free speech. When did the NAACP turn against America? I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm not speaking loudly enough. When did the NAACP turn against America and against the free speech provision of the Constitution? They're also against freedom of assembly. They are for lawlessness. They're for chaos on the streets, and they need to be slapped down. Because this kind of crap is happening much too much in America. It goes against everything America stands for. It's the end of civil political discourse. And it's just the furtherance of chaos. Speaking of which, item from the Associated Press, Dateline, Villanova, Pennsylvania. Villanova University has canceled classes on Tuesday, that's today, as students celebrate the men's basketball team's first NCAA championship title since 1985. Police say 6 people were arrested, 25 people injured after Chris Jenkins' three-pointer in the final seconds of the title game Monday night propelled the Wildcats over North Carolina 77-74, unquote. My friends, let me tell you why this victory by Villanova was important. Actually, I can't do that. Because it's not important. It's nothing. Villanova wins, loses, exists, doesn't exist. I couldn't care less. The tragedy is that there are people who care so much about it. The tragedy is that America's come to a place in 2016 where every year we see riots, destruction, people injured, people arrested, not over civil rights, not over trying to take our government back, over a basketball game. Over a basketball game. So tell me, as we fight to preserve America, exactly what the hell are we preserving? This? Because this is not worth preserving. I am ashamed of my fellow Americans who are so stupid that they'll go out and wreak destruction because their team won a game. Is this really America in the 21st century? Guys, is this really America? Because if it is, I got better things to do than come on the radio for an hour a day. What exactly am I trying to preserve and save? This? Not worth the effort. We'll be back.
We all know that our government is out of control. What are the points of people in it? How can we, the people, bring it back to the people's servants, not the people's masters? Liberty Forum and the Freedom Rider says officials in government must be made accountable for their actions. AccountabilityRevolution.com is the place to go to learn how you can actually make that happen. Become their judges, not their slaves. AccountabilityRevolution.com. Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies reminds everyone the chance of involvement in an auto accident rises dramatically with the consumption of alcohol or use of drugs. Please think before you drive. Don't let drugs or alcohol ruin your life or take the lives of others. You are responsible for your own safety as well as the safety of those around you. This message from Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies. For information on their services, call 970-484-7981. Great Plains Power has been providing reliable electrical power systems in the Rocky Mountain area since 1992. Our systems rely on the sun to help make you self-reliant for your power needs. Solar energy can be scaled to fit any situation, from complete power independence to backup power for the short term. Our expertise focuses on standalone power, but we have extensive experience with utility interactive systems as well. Custom-tailored capabilities as modest emergency lighting all the way to commercial-scale power. Great Plains Power is a full-service company. We service everything we sell. We provide and design turnkey packages, custom design system, and parts for do-it-yourself. With more than 20 years of specialized experience at your disposal, let us know what your power concerns or goals are. Reach us by phone or the internet. Call 303-239-9963. That's 303-239-9963. Or go to GreatPlainsSolar.com. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness of him and cried out, saying, This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15.
Real Truth marches on, as do I. Howard Riell behind the microphone. PJTV, Ann Coulter talking to John Phillips. The question before us, does Ann Coulter still support Donald Trump for president? Let's listen.
Greetings, and thanks so much for watching this PJTV special. I'm your host, John Phillips. Well, her book defined the 2016 presidential election. It's her 11th New York Times bestseller. I'm, of course, talking about the one, the only Ann Coulter. And thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and cut right to the chase. Donald Trump is a guy who you backed very early on, although not as early as some of our friends.
Well, pretty much from the Mexican rapist. I needed a week to make sure he wasn't going to back down, which is hilarious now.
He caught the country by storm. He's now not only leading in all the polls nationally, he's leading in many of the state polls of the states that haven't voted yet. He's leading in the delegate count. All of the metrics for the debate show that he has developed an interest level in this campaign like we haven't seen before in American history. And I read something earlier today saying that you're starting to wobble, starting to lose your affection for Donald Trump in certain respects. Is that true?
Yes, I've gone from supporting Donald Trump to ferociously supporting Donald Trump. No, I mean, these conservatives, particularly, apparently, many of our friends, the Cruz supporters, they are behaving they have all the behavioral mannerisms that I hate in liberals. And they talk about, it comes from the top with Donald Trump, which is exactly nothing, other than his great love and respect for women.
But I think the lying, and it is lying, it's utter, outrageous dishonesty coming from the Cruz camp. I'm certain to think that might come from the top too. But I mean, this moon battery, where anything your guy does must be defended to the hilt, and everything is Donald Trump's fault. I mean, just a quick example: the National Enquirer article. I mean, it's come out that was coming from the Rubio camp, and with pretty credible sources, with more credible sources, I might add, than the claim that Cruz was even having the affairs. Though perhaps there's more to come on that. But there's the National Enquirer story, and somehow Cruz turns that into a scandal with Trump. I've met Trump's campaign staff. He has 3 guys. For most of the campaign, he had 2 people. And when I say guys, 1 guy, 1 gal, I mean, other than the state organizers, he doesn't have an Oppo research team. The idea that he's the one who would place this, apart from the fact that the Daily Beast talked to all of these other reporters who said, they tried to shop that story to us too. It was the Rubio camp.
I think part of it is the Cruz people and the Rubio people, and if you go back far enough, the Jeb people, always thought that someone from the club would eventually end up with the nomination. Probably Jeb early on, if you go back and look at those polls. The fact that Trump has taken it away from them has made them so angry that they think that he has to be cheating because there's no other way a guy like him could be leading the pack. So therefore, he has to be doing more things dirty and underhanded that we just don't know about. So anything that we do is justified.
They certainly are taking the approach that anything they do is justified, but they're also, I mean, the double standards now are things, again, this is everything I hated about the Clintons, everything I hate about the left. And some of these people are friends of ours, and I look at their tweets and think, wait, when you saw that video of a delusional female reporter who does not ask any questions when she's supposed to, during the question and answer period, I like to call it, stands in the back with friends and family of Trump's, and then after the press conference is over, this Michelle Fields rushes not only the front-runner presidential candidate, but one who is under an enormous threat of attacks, in the middle of a Secret Service scrum, and Corey Lewandowski, doing his job, is just trying to keep up with his boss. Anyone who can look at that video and call that a battery, I mean, they're crazier than these campus moonbats who want to bring charges for inappropriate laughing. And the fact that people on our side are legitimizing that form of attack. Not only that, but then, I mean, Trump was hilarious in his response to it. The beginning of that CNN town hall, I just wanted to watch it over and over again, where he does a dramatic reading of Michelle Fields' claim that she was, her wrist was grabbed horribly, leaving these bruises, and Corey tried to yank her to the ground, but somehow she managed to keep her balance. And then you see her completely placid, walking along. Again, if that was a battery, Corey's shoulder brushing hers, then Trump is right. That was an assault on him, and he should bring charges. He was so great. My arm's never been the same, folks. That was so great. So Trump, ironically, does start saying, look, if that's a battery, Corey's shoulder brushing against Michelle's shoulder, then I was assaulted. And now the Cruz moonbats are coming back as if they're the ironic ones, saying, oh, really? Here's a pen. Are you afraid of this pen, Donald? No, are you really that dumb? Do you not get the joke that he's making? Because she had a pen and he said it could be a knife, who knows? And now they're showing pictures of pens. Oh, are you afraid? No, his remark was the ironic one to your pussification of politics. I mean, the utter double standards. I hate liars. I hate double standards like this. And the fact that people on our side are doing this,
It's really shocked me. And the list of people, if you just look at the names of the people who were the most hysterical, who were the most over the top, a lot of them surprised me. And some of the people that wrote for National Review, I thought were pretty solid people.
A lot of them are our friends, or were our friends. And I want to send them emails and say, you really got to back off for a minute, because you're doing things now that you're going to be embarrassed about in the future.
I don't think so. I think that they have it in their heads that if their guy loses, they're going to tank the election on purpose and then turn around and blame Trump supporters and say, look what they did, and hope for the most liberal justices on the Supreme Court, almost in a masochistic way.
Right,
where
right.
They desire and they yearn for punishment, and the more punishment, the more they like it.
Well,
because they want to blame
That's
us.
actually a good point, because frankly, you did see a lot of that with Romney. I mean, you may recall people are acting like these endorsements mean anything. I think Trump's campaign has ended the idea that endorsements do a thing, move the needle at all. But most of the guys who ran against Romney ended up endorsing someone else. Perry, Gingrich, Herman Cain, none of them would endorse Romney. They always hate the front runner. Now, usually that changes with the general election, but what I'm saying they're going to be embarrassed by, and why they really ought to think twice before suddenly adopting the left's inappropriate laughter is the equivalent of a rape standard.
All right, guys, go to my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio. Watch the rest of this video. Ann Coulter is always excellent. You know, one thing, I got several things in common with Ann Coulter. But just like her, I hate lies, I hate double standards, I hate hypocrisy, and I hate conspiracies. And all the powers that be, on the left and on the right, are conspiring out in the open against Donald Trump, who has done nothing wrong, but he's come forward to try and help America heal from the wounds that have been inflicted. And for that he's being set upon like as if by a group of wolves. And it makes my blood boil. We'll take a break. Real Truth, as always, marches on. Alright guys, I'm going to march on too. The video is over. Please share it. We want as many people as possible to hear this. Go to my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio. You'll find other videos. Not all of them mine, just the best ones are mine. And you'll find tons of articles. I want you to memorize each and every... All right, you don't have to memorize them. But read them, share them. I'll see you tomorrow. Hasta luego.